Hey everyone, welcome to another modern deck tech video. Today I am revisiting Temur Rogues, a fun little deck that I first showcased on my channel last year. I figured it'd be nice to revisit it. It's had some nice little upgrades. I really love this archetype or shell of a deck that I always come back to every year because it's just a fun deck to play and I love sharing it with you guys, and I know some of you have tried it out as well in the past, so hopefully you'd give the updated version a try when you can. Before we get to the list, as usual, if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button down below and that like button, maybe even that notification bell. Those 3 clicks in conjunction go a really long way in supporting this channel, supporting me, and helping others find my content. Alright, the list. So, what does Temur Rogues look like? So it's a tempo deck, for all intents and purposes. Some might just call it an aggro deck, and I think that's fair. There are some tempo-y aspects to it. You're playing little creatures, they work really well together. And together they lead you to wins. You're trying to have some card advantage here, or at the very least card filtering with some of these cards. Fairy Miscreant goes a long way in doing that. Suspicious Stowaway, which is a recent upgrade to this deck, goes a long way in doing that. And the card I love the most, I own in foil in real life, kind of hard to find actually in foil, Thieves' Fortune. It's an awesome card. We'll get to it in a second if you want to see what it does. But generally speaking here, this is the deck. 5-6 years ago, this deck was like a Temur toolbox deck. So you had Traverse the Ulvenwald, and Traverse the Ulvenwald was there to kind of pick out specific creatures or silver bullets that you needed to win the game for any particular situation. Since then, I've kind of evolved the deck away from that because I feel like Modern right now is not necessarily, favorable for a toolbox-like strategy. So instead, I still use Traverse the Ulvenwald to get, more threats when we need them, but it's not pinned, the deck itself is not hinged on Traverse the Ulvenwald. In fact, I've even cut down from 4 to 3 to make room for other cards. In particular, we're running a bit more removal here with Unholy Heat, which I feel we can't not run in a deck that tries to turn on Delirium because of for Traverse and for Obsessive Skinner. It only makes sense that Unholy Heat makes a presence here and an upgrade to the deck. And of course, Suspicious Stowaway is the other upgrade. So let's get to the synergies here. Really, the Rogues are the center theme of this deck. Without them, it wouldn't be Temur Rogues, it'd be Temur something else. Fairy Miscreant, which is just a little 1/1 flyer. Unfortunately, right now, bugged on MTGO, which made this deck tech harder to do because I tried, I obviously have matches going up today, and it's just bugged. Fairy Miscreant, triggers itself when it enters the battlefield, which is very annoying. It's giving me advantage that I wouldn't normally have. It actually made it harder to pick out matches to show you because I didn't want to show matches that were just so lopsided because of Fairy Miscreant. Anyway, I don't want to get too much into that. But generally speaking, Fairy Miscreant is just fine on its own. It does allow you to cast Thieves' Fortune with Prowl, the Prowl trigger or the Prowl alternate cost. And it's just a 1/1. It'll draw you extra cards when you play more than one onto the battlefield, and it does its job. Most people will try and ignore it, or they'll waste a burn spell on it, which, for me, it's fine by me. Suspicious Stowaway is the upgrade to this deck. We used to play Looter Il Core, which essentially had the exact same ability as Suspicious Stowaway at its core. It wasn't completely unblockable. It had Shadow. Here, it's just unblockable, which is great. And you also looted every time you dealt damage to a player. But Suspicious Stowaway is even better because not only is it just unblockable completely, it can also transform. Now, when it transforms, it's no longer a rogue, but that's okay because when it transforms, it's a 2/1 unblockable where you just draw a card. You don't have to discard a card anymore. And that's perfectly fine. Your opponent's going to have to figure out what they want to deal with more. Suspicious Stowaway or Seafaring Werewolf. For you, either way, it's a win. Obsessive Skinner also helps you, boost up the power level of your creatures because they're all pretty small. And with Delirium, you're doing that boosting every upkeep. Well, every upkeep of your opponent, I should say. And very actually key to this deck. I used to run 1 or 2 of them. Now I run 3 in most versions of this deck. And it's just actually become a really key component in making your creature bigger, not smaller, bigger. So you could close out the game. Now, the pièce de résistance, as we say here in Quebec, Thieves' Fortune. I just love this card. I love the art. I love it in real life. I love it in foil. It's a tribal instant, and it's a rogue as well. That weird era. Which means it feeds Delirium, it feeds your Tarmogoyf. Look at the top 4 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand, and put the rest in the bottom of your library in any order. Great. and you could cast it for 1 mana, 1 blue, if you dealt damage with one of your rogues in that same turn, which happens very often. This has saved me so many times. Sometimes I Thieves' Fortune, chained it into another Thieves' Fortune because I didn't find what I needed, and then I find what I need off of that second Thieves' Fortune. It's just a beautiful card to be able to play. I do definitely play it, and if you haven't had the luxury or the honor of playing with Thieves' Fortune in a deck before, please try it out. You're gonna really love it here. So this is the main synergies of the deck. This is what I really want to focus on here. Let's go to the matchups real quick. Combo decks, pretty even. You're running counter spells in the main. I think the one downside here is that sometimes it can take you a bit longer to close out the game because your creatures are small, and you have to have the right synergy there. So in those instances, combo's gonna win off of that because you're just taking too long to win the game, to close the game. This is Temur, so you are playing red. You have burn spells to kind of speed things along, but that's why I pretty much put combo at even. Mid range, you're really unfavored. It's just the experience I've had recently. It wasn't always the case with Temur Rogues, just with Prismatic Ending being just a brutal way to remove anything essentially you play. Yeah, and it's just a very uphill battle when you're playing against mid-range decks, so it's just overall it's unfavored. That's the truth. Aggro decks, relatively even, surprisingly, still. Even though aggro decks have just gotten better and better over time. You are an aggro deck, so don't forget that, but some aggro decks go wider faster than you do. Either way, you're getting in there for little bits of damage. You're playing a lot of removal in the main, which means you could remove a lot of the threats that you're going to be facing on the other side. Generally speaking, it's a pretty even matchup. Control also surprisingly even. You would think I would say unfavored because Control is playing a lot of white now because of Prismatic Ending, but they really don't know what to do with you. Honestly, that's what I've noticed. They don't have a lot of creatures, so they don't have a lot of way to put pressure on you. All they could do is just hope they could, draw into their Prismatic Endings or their counter spells or their tap spells. Don't forget, you have access to green here. You have Veil of Summer, which really helps out a lot. You have your own counter spells, Force of Negation. So generally, in the games I've been playing, it's been pretty even. You're pretty favored against Tron. You're playing Magus of the Moon main. You have Blood Moon in the side. You can go fetch Magus if you need to, with Traverse the Elven Wall with Delirium active. Overall, you're pretty favored against Tron. Lastly, unfavored against borderline Magic decks. You're doing too many other things. I feel like if you're playing, well, maybe Mill would be your best bet, but everything else, Prize Amalgam, decks that play it, Dredge, and other whatever borderline degenerate decks. Sometimes you're just too slow, and they're going to take advantage of that, and that's why overall it's unfavored. So that's it for Temur Rogues. I love this deck. You should try it out. I'm going to be showcasing Sultai Rogues next week, and then a third Rogues deck. I say third because I'm still in the middle of brewing it, so I'm not sure yet what color combination it will be. I started out with Bant, it turned down to 4 color, and now I'm at Esper. We'll see where I settle. But this is Rogues. Get ready, because after Rogues comes the Snow decks, which a lot of you have been asking about. But anyway, Temur Rogues, check out the matches. They're going up today. I love this deck. You should really try it out. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you enjoy my content in general, please subscribe and hit that notification bell down below. Those few clicks go a really long way in helping others find my content and helps my channel grow. Follow me on Twitter and Facebook, share my content on social media. That also helps others find their way to my videos and spreads the word even further. And of course, if you like making money, check out my Patreon page. The link is in the description of this video. In particular, check out the Patreon Rewards program. Basically works like this. You give me your Patreon dollars every month. I buy and open up sealed product on this channel using those dollars. And I send you back that money at the end of every year in the form of rares and mythics. You get 1 non-bulk rare or mythic for every consecutive month you've been a patron, and every card is worth anywhere between $3 and $15. But I mean, even if you lowball it at an average of $5 per card, you're at the very least getting your money back, but odds are you're getting even more. There are a lot more details on my Patreon page, so check it out. Thanks, and have a good one.